The bell in the clock tower of the cathedral tolled twice. The main square of Verona sweltered in the hot sunshine, and the air shimmered. Two young men were lounging beside a fountain, and the taller of the two, Romeo's closest friend, Mercutio, dipped a handkerchief into the water and mopped his face. "Where is he?" he demanded tetchily. "He should have been here an hour ago." His companion, Romeo's cousin Benvolio, smiled at Mercutio's impatience. "Some important business must have detained him," he said. "A pair of pretty eyes, more like," snorted Mercutio as he glanced across the square. He saw Romeo hurrying towards them. "At last," Mercutio said sarcastically. "I was beginning to think that the Queen of the Fairies had carried you off in your sleep." "I have great news," said Romeo, "but you must promise to keep it a secret." Mercutio looked curiously at his friend. "Oh," he said. "I am in love," said Romeo. Benvolio laughed. Mercutio groaned and shook his head. "You are always in love," he cried. "A girl only has to look at you sideways to make you fall for her." "It's more than that this time," said Romeo. "I am in love with—" "Romeo," interrupted a harsh voice. Romeo turned and saw Tybalt with a group of sneering Capulets. Tybalt's right hand was resting on the hilt of his sword. "You were at my family's house last night," he said. "Now you must pay for your insolence. Draw your sword." Romeo's eyes flashed with anger, then grew calm. "I will not fight you, Tybalt," he said. "It would be like fighting one of my own family." "Why, you milksop," jeered Tybalt. "You are as cowardly as the rest of the Montagues." "Romeo," gasped Mercutio, "are you going to stand and do nothing while he insults your family?" "I must," said Romeo. "You don't understand. I have no choice." "But I do," snarled Mercutio. His rapier flashed in the sunlight as he drew it. "I want to fight, Tybalt. I'm your man," he cried. In a movement too fast to follow, Tybalt brought out his sword, and the two young men began to fight at dazzling speed. "Help me to stop them, Benvolio," pleaded Romeo. He caught Mercutio from behind, pinning his arms to his side. As he did so, Tybalt lunged forward and drove the point of his rapier through Mercutio's heart, fatally wounding him. "A plague on both your houses," he whispered with his dying breath. When Romeo realized that his friend was dead, rage surged through him, and his hatred for the Capulets brought a bitter taste to his mouth. "Tybalt," he cried, drawing his rapier, "one of us must join Mercutio in death." "Then let your sword decide who it shall be," Tybalt snarled. Romeo hacked at Tybalt as though Tybalt were a tree that he wanted to cut down. At first, the watching Capulets laughed at Romeo's clumsiness, but as Tybalt began to fall back towards the centre of the square, their laughter died. It was obvious that Tybalt was tiring and finding it difficult to defend himself. At last Romeo and Tybalt stood face to face, their swords locked together. Tybalt's left hand fumbled at his belt. He drew out a dagger. Romeo, seeing the danger, clamped his left hand around Tybalt's wrist, and they stumbled and struggled with each other. Tybalt flicked out a foot, intending to trip Romeo, but instead he lost his own balance, and the two enemies tumbled to the ground. Romeo fell on Tybalt's left hand, forcing the point of the dagger deep into Tybalt's chest. He felt Tybalt's dying breath warm against his cheek. A voice called out, "Quick, the prince's guards!" and the Capulets scattered. Benvolio helped Romeo to his feet. "Come now, before it's too late," he said, but Romeo did not hear him. He stared at Tybalt's body, and the full realization of what he had done fell on him like a weight. "I've killed Juliet's cousin," he thought. "She cannot love a murderer. She will never forgive me. How could I have let myself be such a fool?" He was staring at Tybalt when the prince's guards reached him. That night, the Prince of Verona passed judgment on Romeo. The hatred of the Montagues and the Capulets had cost 2 lives today, he said. "I want no more bloodshed. I will spare Romeo his life, but I banish him to the city of Mantua. He must leave tonight, and if he is ever found in Verona again, he will be put to death."